It is 1:30, Universal Time. I'm Jim Tedder in Washington. American and Iraqi officials say the death of terrorist leader Abu Musab al-Zarqawi is important, but will not end rebel activity in Iraq. Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki announced al-Zarqawi's death to reporters Thursday. The Prime Minister said the resistance leader and 6 other people were killed in a raid near Baquba, northeast of Baghdad. The American military commander in Iraq, General George Casey, also spoke to reporters. He said that leading members of al-Qaeda in Iraq had betrayed Abu Musab al-Zarqawi. United States Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld says al-Zarqawi's death will hurt the efforts of al-Qaeda in Iraq, but he said other terrorist leaders will come out. In other news, the Iraqi Prime Minister has filled 3 major security positions. Iraq now has an Interior Minister, Defense Minister, and a head of national security. Some observers say they consider these jobs important as foreign troops begin to leave the country. The positions had been empty since Iraq's National Unity Government took office on May 20th. The United Nations Nuclear Agency says Iran has started a new series of uranium enrichment work. In a report released Thursday, the International Atomic Energy Agency says Iran has added more equipment to expand its enrichment operations. The report also says Iranian officials have refused to answer questions about some parts of their nuclear work. The United States says Iran must suspend all enrichment work if it accepts an international offer of assistance and returns to nuclear talks. Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad says his country is willing to negotiate about common concerns and to clear up misunderstandings in the international community. He also said that Iran will not give up its right to work with modern technology. The Argentine government has called on a United Nations court to force Uruguay to stop efforts to build 2 paper factories along their shared border. Argentine officials made the call Thursday before the International Court of Justice in The Hague. A representative for Argentina argued that the factories would release poisonous chemicals into the Uruguay River. He said this could harm the environment and threaten the health of citizens. But a professor representing Uruguay said Argentina has not presented any evidence to support its claim. He said Uruguay's main concern is to protect the environment and the health of people on both sides of the river. President Bush met with Chilean President Michelle Bachelet at the White House Thursday. The 2 leaders discussed issues such as strengthening democracy and helping poor people. Following the meeting, Mr. Bush praised Ms. Bachelet's promise to honor free speech, voters' rights, and human rights. Both leaders said relations between the 2 countries are strong. You are listening to the news in VOA Special English. Palestinian medical officials say an Israeli air attack has killed a top security official in the Hamas-led government. Doctors say Jamal Abu Samhadana was one of 4 people killed during the attack. The attack came Thursday on a training area in the southern Gaza Strip. Samhadana was a leader of the Palestinian militant group called the Popular Resistance Committees. In other news, a spokesman for Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas says Mr. Abbas will announce a national vote on a government plan that recognizes Israel. The spokesman said the vote will likely be set for July 31st. NATO defense ministers say they are prepared to expand the alliance's peacekeeping force in Afghanistan. The Afghan defense minister and NATO Secretary General say they believe the force will be able to fight rebels, drug dealers, and other criminals. Abdul Rahim Wardak and Yabdehop Schefer spoke to reporters after the defense ministers met in Brussels. The alliance plans to increase troop levels in Afghanistan from 9,000 to 16,000 by the end of this year. Fighters loyal to Islamic courts in Somalia say they are beginning talks with the country's United Nations-aided temporary government. A government official says 2 ministers have been sent to talk with the Islamic Courts Union in Mogadishu. The resistance fighters recently seized control of the city. Reports say Islamist forces have pulled back from Johar, the last major Somali city controlled by private armies. The Islamist forces would control most of southern Somalia if they capture the city. 2 Sudanese rebel groups that earlier rejected the Darfur peace deal have signed a document to honor the plan. The 2 smaller groups signed the document at a ceremony in Ethiopia Thursday. The first agreement was signed by the Sudanese government and Darfur's largest rebel group on May 5th, but the 2 smaller groups had refused to sign. Members of the groups who wanted to join the deal took part in the signing ceremony Thursday. The Darfur peace plan calls for the disarming of government-supported armies and rebel groups. Health officials in the United States have approved a medication used to prevent cancer of the cervix. The Food and Drug Administration made the announcement Thursday. The drug, called Gardasil, can be given to women and girls between the ages of 9 and 26. Researchers have found that the drug is effective against several strains of the human papillomavirus, or HPV. 2 deadly strains of the virus are responsible for most cases of cervical cancer. Almost 300,000 women around the world die of the disease each year. And now, briefly, here again is the major news of the hour. American and Iraqi officials say the death of terrorist leader Abu Musab al-Zarqawi is important, but will not end rebel activity in Iraq. The United Nations Nuclear Agency says Iran has started a new series of uranium enrichment work. And the Argentine government has called on a United Nations court to force Uruguay to stop plans to build 2 factories along their shared border. And that's the news in VOA Special English. Jim Tedder reporting.